Well, hello. I'm delighted that you are here with us today, and I think you're about to launch quite an interesting and perhaps challenging day. Hopefully, one that in the end you will feel is truly productive and makes an enormous difference in the future of your community action agency. Well, it's going to be a somewhat unusual approach to training, so we're going to start off by explaining how this process is going to work and also by introducing you to two key people who are in the room with you. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about sustainability because I think it's important to keep in mind throughout the day that the entire purpose of this training and this effort that you're undertaking is to actually increase the sustainability and resiliency of your community action agency. We and you are committed to that. And one of the things that I think everyone in community action has realized recently is that we simply have to find some ways to increase the effectiveness of the financial leadership that comes both from our board and from our staff, and to really take a new look at sustainability in community action. We're going to spend quite a bit of time today helping you identify the financial drivers, the financial factors, and the financial strategies that can actually make a difference in the sustainability of your organization. And of course, because our ultimate goal is to help you develop an effective dashboard, a communication tool for your organization, we are going to have to talk about progress indicators and the context that you will use to evaluate progress in a number of key areas. Well, let's talk first a little bit about the training process. You have now in the room 7 recorded segments. And what's going to be happening is that your facilitator is going to be showing one segment like they are right now, and then we're going to be asking you to do a set of exercises first with your team, the folks who came from your community action agency, your executive director, your fiscal director, and your board member. So most of our time will actually be spent with the 3 of you working together to make progress on thinking through sustainability and then designing a dashboard for your organization. At the end of your team's work session, there will be a short opportunity to kind of compare notes with the other community action agencies that are there with you in the room, and then we'll go back to the recorded training for another short segment where we'll tackle another one of the challenges in building an effective dashboard. Now, I wish I could say that all you have to do is work hard all day today and you'll have your dashboard when you walk out the door. But actually, that isn't how it works. We're going to find that by the time you get to the end of today, you'll have a good sketch of what you're thinking would be an effective dashboard for your board. But we're going to encourage you to take that back to your organization and actually test it and check it out with your full board, with some of your committees, and with your management team. And we're also going to be able to provide follow-up support. And this is a particularly strong part of this process because we know that while you are the best people to understand the issues and the challenges to sustainability in your community action agency, there's a lot of technical issues in developing an effective dashboard, and we have a team that's ready to support you in doing that. And of course, the whole end of the training process is that your brilliant dashboard emerges, your board cheers, and there's just a whole new ray of light and clarity in your thinking about sustainability. So let's look at that end point one more time and say that what we'll be focusing on today is helping you identify critical financial information, important program information, and strategic information. Remember that strategic plan you've done? We're going to help you translate some of those key strategies from strategic plans into dashboard measurements so that everyone, your board and your management, can follow progress. Now, you know, dashboards right now are something of a fad, and sometimes people want one because somebody else has one. And actually, we're not very interested in that as a motivation for getting a dashboard. What we are interested in is figuring out what critical information your whole board needs to understand, and understand quickly, so that you can make good decisions together. So that's what we're going to work towards, and we've got a lot of work to do. So now let's introduce some people who I hope are going to be very helpful to you during the day. In the room with you, you have a facilitator, and that person is going to keep it lively and keep it comfortable. They're really there for you. So if you start doing one of the team exercises and you realize that you don't quite understand what the questions mean or what we're asking you to do, please call the facilitator over. They're prepared to help you. They are also going to keep the discussion going when you end your team exercise and have a chance to compare notes with the other organizations in the room. We've also asked to have a financial expert present. And this is really important because, you know, the area of financial reporting, it's just filled with jargon, and it's filled with inconsistent use of the same terms. And as much as we've tried to put samples in the training that will match up with your financial reports, we know that we haven't succeeded, that every community action agency does things differently. So the financial expert is there to help you translate some of the concepts that you'll hear talked about and see on the screen, and look for those same concepts in the financial information that you've brought from your community action agency. So don't suffer. Call the financial expert over and ask them, well, what is she talking about? We can't find that on our reports. And that's what they're there to help you do. Now, the follow-up assistance project. You know, here's how we hope it's going to work, is that your team is going to work very hard today, and then you're going to go back and work with your board and some of your board committees and with the executive management team in your organization. And you're going to come up with the key indicators and the points of comparison that you want to appear on your dashboard. And once you're to that point, you're going to be able to get hands-on help from our team. Your facilitator, your financial expert will be available to you, I'll be available to you, and the Community Action Partnership and CAPLA will be available to you. All of us working together with your team to get a good dashboard in place. Well, now we have to ask you the first critical question, and that is, you know, how sustainable is your community action agency today? Now, you can probably guess how this sustainability scale works. Over there where you see the bright red color and the number 1, that means, you know, it's a disaster area right now. You are teetering on the brink of folding or some serious financial crises. And not surprisingly, over on the other end of the continuum where you see the bright green square and the number 5, that's nirvana. That's the situation where just bring it on, because there's nothing that could come in the way of your community action agency that could stop your sustainability. Now, what we'd like you to do is, you've got notes, you've got a copy of this PowerPoint. I'd like you to actually circle the number that you think best fits your judgment on how sustainable your community action agency is today. And I'd actually like you to kind of cover over the slide that you circle and not share it with your team until we're done with this next discussion. And then you're going to compare notes and see whether everybody on your team has the same perception about your sustainability. So let's talk a little bit about how we might judge financial health and sustainability, what the telltale signs of being healthy and sustainable might be. Well, I would start by saying achieving the mission is the key sign. After all, that's why we're all working together, is that we intend to get the resources that are needed and to make good decisions on using those resources so that ultimately we achieve the mission. And it is a really positive sign of sustainability when you're sure that's what you're doing. But now let's get a little more technical and realize that another critical sign is liquidity. Now, that's a jargon term for do you have cash when you need it? And one of the things that we know is that organizations that don't have cash when it's needed end up spending so much management time struggling with cash flow problems that they lose focus on achieving mission, and they actually begin a downward spiral that will destroy their sustainability. So your cash position is critical to your sustainability. We're also going to be talking a lot about net assets. Now, that's a number that appears on your balance sheet along with the assets and liabilities. It's kind of nonprofit jargon for the concept of equity in a business or net worth in common speech. And you're going to see that we're honing in and spending a lot of time talking about liquid net assets, the portion of your net worth that you can really access relatively quickly. Now, this is community action after all, and so a key sign of sustainability is going to be compliance, because we know that in community action, we have got to be able to maintain and document our compliance, or we are absolutely not going to be sustainable, because we are going to lose the ability to get some of our major sources of funding, and we may actually have some serious financial consequences for our compliance failures. So we're going to be looking at all of these key signs of health and figuring out how you would measure progress. But we know that sustainability is actually not entirely a financial concept. It's really an issue of leadership and community support. It's all about doing effective risk management, and we know in community action we've got plenty of risks, and they're increasing today. Of course, one of our main risks is compliance. Now, what we're really going to focus on today is this concept of a viable business model. And it's a concept that really looks at where are our opportunities to strengthen our net assets, to build net worth. And on the other hand, what are some of the areas in which we are under serious threat and our business model may actually be causing our financial health to deteriorate? So we're going to be looking very closely at that. And of course, because we're working on a dashboard, it's all about understanding that we have to have timely access to key information, and that we have to be able to make good decisions on a timely basis. So we're going to be working on all of the sustainability factors to try to increase the sustainability of your community action agency. Now, you may think this is a strange slide. We've been talking about your community action agency and some of its financial indicators and leadership challenges. Now we've got a slide that says related entities. Well, we also know that all across the country, many community action agencies have actually used multiple legal entities to carry out their work. Now, if you're one of the community action agencies that has gotten involved with affordable housing, you're probably using tax credit partnerships. You may have HUD 202 or 811 projects. In general, when we do affordable housing, we're required to set up a separate legal entity. Now, those legal entities continue to have a relationship with our community action agency. And so when we talk about sustainability and financial health, we're going to have to talk about the potential impact of those related entities. More recently, some community action agencies have gotten very interested in social enterprise or business ventures. And in some cases, we've actually separately incorporated our business ventures. And we might have structured them as for-profits or as non-profits, but they have this same quality of retaining a relationship to our community action agency, and so potentially impacting our sustainability. Now, we'll go through the various ways that those related entities might impact our sustainability a little later. And for right now, it's enough to just make sure everybody on your team is clear about whether you do have some related entities. Now, whether you have related entities or not, all of us in community action face some real sustainability. Focused budgeting. And so if you're in a community action agency that does its budgeting only grant by grant, award by award, and never brings it together into a comprehensive organization-wide plan, you're confronting one of those roadblocks. Now, we probably all confront the worst roadblock, which is the preponderance of use it or lose it funding. And that's the terms of most government awards, that if you don't spend the money, you don't get the money. You only are going to be reimbursed or allowed to get funding for costs that are actually incurred. That makes it extraordinarily difficult to build up net assets, to build reserves. But we're going to talk about how community action agencies are doing it. Many of us are blocked by the complexity of our multiple grant periods. It is a very complex planning process and complex compliance process that gets in the way of strategic thinking. And probably all of us have some impact from the arbitrary limits that are put on many sources of funding in terms of funding for administrative costs and for the infrastructure that we would really need to become more effective and efficient. So we're going to talk about what we can do to get rid of that roadblock. Now, finally, I would say one of our biggest roadblocks is somewhat self-imposed, and that is that we really don't have the tools to analyze our business model and understand what's helping us and what's making it harder to be sustainable, because our whole presentation of our business model and our financial information is actually distorted by our focus on compliance. We're going to say more about that a little later. But now it's time for your team to get started. And it is going to be time for you to share with your team members what your sustainability rating was that you gave your community action agency, and to talk a little bit about your significant financial strengths and also the threats to your sustainability. It's also the time to just acknowledge whether you have related entities and what they are, and make sure everybody on your team understands what the position is there in relation to the related entities. Well, I hope you have a really interesting discussion. I hope you appoint a note taker for your team, because you're going to do a lot of work together and you're going to need to have good notes to refer to later on today. And I also hope you'll make use of your facilitator and your financial expert to make sure that your time together is spent productively. And I look forward to rejoining you in just a few minutes to take the next steps in working towards sustainability.